So since I just beat Eco in Shadow of the Colossus, I'd figure I'd give my predictions and thoughts about The Last Guardian. This is going to be a very cynical approach, and I genuinely hope I'm wrong, and that the game is much better than I anticipate it being. I wasn't going to make this video because I'm sick, but I want to keep at least a 1 video a week schedule, and this is going to be easier to do than a WTTV. I also saw this in the trending YouTube page and then looked up the release date. PewDiePie getting to play this nearly 2 months early is kind of crazy, but it obviously means the game is finished. I have not and will not watch the video until after I upload this, and then even then probably not. PewDiePie's not really my thing. Being in development hell for I think it's about 8 years has not done it any favors. It's gonna look like a PS3 game, and even if it's highly stylized, it won't be anything impressive. From what I've seen, it looks just like Eco in Shadow of the Colossus. I imagine it'll look exactly like the HD remaster of Shadow of the Colossus. The jump from last gen to current gen is probably a lot larger than a lot of people give it credit for, so releasing something largely last gen isn't going to be turning any heads. I honestly believe it's going to take the worst of Eco and the worst of Shadow of the Colossus to form a game that's forgettable and totally eclipsed by the previous two. You have a permanent partner just like Yorda in the form of Trico, and he is going to be realistic and not always respond to your commands a la aggro in Shadow of the Colossus. That is going to make The Last Guardian an incredibly frustrating, boring, and tedious game to play. Having to babysit Yorda was terrible. It was probably the worst part of Eco, and having aggro not respond to your commands accurately or even at all was infuriating at times. So combining those two winning concepts just feels like a terrible idea and a mistake. It's a pretentious artistic decision that breaks conventions, but ultimately makes your game way less enjoyable. I've also heard that Trico will just go off and do his own thing at times, which is just going to make you have a lot of waiting around, and waiting around is boring, and it's going to make you hate Trico. There will no doubt be totally scripted sequences where Trico does something regardless of your relationship level and the training you're supposed to develop throughout the course of the game. That's just going to make the entire game feel like it's all scripted set pieces, and will no doubt make you question whether everything Trico does is just predetermined, and whether the training you're giving him is even matters. Eco and Shadow of the Colossus were rough around the edges, and I think that roughness is going to be present in The Last Guardian as well. I imagine there will be several moments, like the stone piston and water wheel, that are just poorly designed, with incredibly precise control and timing required to get through them. There'll be huge design oversights like massive areas with nothing to do, or puzzles that require a huge amount of runaround to do something very basic. Regardless, you'll most likely be waiting around for Trico a lot anyways. I bet the story is going to be exactly the same as Eco and Shadow of the Colossus as well. Basic exposition at the front, exposition dump at the end with nothing in between. Followed by an ambiguous, but most likely happy ending, as Team Eco is 2 for 2 on not having a dark ending, or even answering any of the questions that players will ask. I've heard a lot of people saying that Trico or the boy is gonna die, and you know what? I don't think Team Eco has the balls to do that. Wander doesn't really die, he just kinda gets turned into a baby. Aggro doesn't die, he shows up at the temple with a limp despite falling hundreds of feet. The girl even comes back to life at the end of Shadow of the Colossus. Seriously, no one dies in Shadow of the Colossus. The one death that happens is off screen and is completely reversed by the end of the game. Eco is the same. Eco gets out of the castle no worse for wear, and Yorda shows up on the beach. I don't think they have it in them to kill off either character in The Last Guardian. It's unprecedented. The only characters that die in Eco of the Shadow of the Colossus are the big bad villains. I like to make guesses at the story or major plot elements in games and movies, much to the dismay of anyone who's watching with me. I know nothing about The Last Guardian outside of the original E3 trailer, besides some of the names and some Japanese context, like Trico is known as Man-Eating Trico, or something along those lines. This is going to be my guess at the general outline of the plot events. The boy will arrive in the ruins temple where Trico is located, most likely by accident or against his will. It's probably going to be taken as a sacrifice to Trico, just like how Eco was taken as a sacrifice. Trico is going to turn out to not be a man-eating monster, and the boy and Trico will form a bond based on a mutually beneficial relationship. My guess is that Trico is going to initially be hostile to the boy, then Trico is going to get stuck or trapped in the environment somehow, and the boy will free him. Strong possibility that Trico is an infant animal, and his mother is killed during the introduction of the game as well. The boy and Trico will get separated, most likely involving some kind of fall. Again, we're 2 for 2 on falling to separate the two characters. Or the boy Trico will be captured by some humans. You'll have a section where you're playing solo, either as the boy without Trico, or as Trico. This isn't unprecedented, as you play as Dorman briefly in Shadow of the Colossus. I'm leaning towards you controlling Trico, as it will be kind of like a twist on the formula. It might actually be kind of interesting. Trico and the boy are going to be reunited and free of whatever prison-esque area they were in and live happily ever after. It's painting in broad strokes, but I think it will be actually fairly accurate. So this is going to be kind of a different section. I'm going to talk about critical reception. So forgetting all the potential to go wrong, it will never live up to anyone's expectations. It's been in development hell for like 8 years. The gameplay is no doubt archaic and not anything we haven't seen before. I imagine the only people that are going to genuinely enjoy it are fans of Team Eco. Critically, I think the time for these kind of artsy games getting a free pass has come and gone. We've had a huge amount of artsy games from indie developers and small studios that succeed in what they've been set out to do, and they've gotten good reception. My prediction is a few 8 and 9s, but the vast majority of 6s and 7s. Keep in mind, I would consider IGN's 8 and 9s to have an inherent negative 1.5 because they always seem to score really high. I think a lot of my predictions will be accurate. I probably won't be buying it because regardless of my predictions, I know I won't really like it, because Team Eco's games are just kind of boring, and honestly that's the worst thing your game can be. I don't foresee Last Guardian being any different than Eco or Shadow of the Colossus. I'm more than willing to give it a shot if I'm wrong, but I don't think I will be. I do hope I am wrong though, and it's an amazing game, but the odds are definitely stacked against it.